Trustees Cook,
Here.
Oppenheim,
Here.
Takaoka,
Here.
Hebda. Here. Schultz,
Here.
Markle.
Here.
We have a quorum present. Will everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any citizens that would like to address the board tonight? Okay. Okay, first item is Proclamation. National Police Week, Peace Officers Memorial Day. The Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as Police Week. The members of the law enforcement agency of Vernon Hills play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Vernon Hills. It is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency. And at that, members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against the deception and the weak against oppression. The men and women of the Vernon Hills Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, I, Roger L. Byrne, President of the Village of Vernon Hills, call upon the citizens of Vernon Hills and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 13th through 19th, 2018, is Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observations in which all of our people may join in, commemorating police officers past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an enviable, enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of Vernon Hills to observe Tuesday, May 15th, 2018, as Police Officers Memorial Day in honor of those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the Village of Vernon Hills to be affixed. Okay, Chief, you want to add anything? And Second Chief could add something if he wants.
Mayor, I'd just like to say thank you for recognizing the men and women of the Vernon Hills Police Department. I'd point out it's not only the sworn officers, but it's CSOs, our telecommunicators, our support staff that all provide critical teamwork necessary in conjunction with the community to help keep the community safe, and they're all proud to do it. So thanks for the recognition.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything?
You know, I would just like to echo Chief Crease's comments, and I may be a little biased, but maybe not. But I too want to congratulate the police officers and thank the officers for all they do for the members of the community.
Amen. Okay, any other comments or questions on that one? If not, the next item is Village Hall meeting room usage policy.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you've seen in your transmittal packets and undoubtedly noticed at the front hall, Mike has done an outstanding job getting the meeting rooms up and running, and we just got the carpets in, so we're moving full bore. So really hats off to Mike for getting this to go forward under budget, and he's doing a great job with that. As part of that, we have to address how we want to manage the meeting rooms. And one of the things that I'm seeking direction from the board this evening is some guidelines to help establish a policy that will dictate who utilizes the meeting rooms. And what I'm really seeking clarification are really four main items. Hours of operation, whether that be from 8:30 to 9 p.m., maybe on Monday through Friday, with some limited weekend hours, such as like Saturdays from 9 to 4, as well as whether or not we want to open this up to only resident and resident groups, or we want to open this up to non-resident associations or non-resident groups. And then is there any fee that we wish to attach to those assignments? With the Park District, when it was managing the Lashin Center, there was a fee at $30 per, I believe it was 2-hour increments, and then a $40 increase for any time after that. That's certainly something that we can go forward and do. We could also create a structured or tiered approach where residents had charged no fee with non-resident groups being charged a fee. It's really at the board's discretion how you'd like to proceed. Obviously, the intent is for it to be a community group that's open to all individuals and entities of Vernon Hills, which certainly could be a factor as to how we wanted to charge for individuals. The one thing I would just note is I know we've already heard interest from the American Legion, who would like to utilize the space on a Saturday on May 12th. Another item that's more logistical in nature is going to be managing the off-hours time in the Village Hall. I know that's something that I've been working with Chief Crease on, and that's something that we're working on some solutions that will cost minimal dollars and provide some efficiencies with how the front doors will be locked and unlocked to maintain security of the building. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, I guess the direction I'm seeking this evening is simply, days of the week that you wish for the meeting rooms to be operational, the hours of those days, and then whether you'd like to charge a fee, and whether or not you'd like to have residents or non-residents open to being able to utilize the space.
Trustee Schultz.
Do we plan on having a janitorial staff in the building during those off hours?
So our janitorial services contract, which is managed by Dave Brown.
I guess, let me restate that. The reason that we wound up establishing the fees at the Lashin Center was that they had a supervisor / janitor on premise during the off-hour period. And that $40 fee was to encourage people to get the heck out at 9 o'clock when his shift, in theory, was supposed to end. So with that being said, if there's no one in the building here to, be present and kind of monitoring things, I'm kind of a little iffy on if we should continue to charge a fee. So that's kind of the question I have is, are we trying to recoup any of the CSO costs if they're going to sit around here or whatever? And then the other thing is, I'm good, during normal business hours, it should be available. So whatever that is, 8 to 5, something like that. And then for after hours till 9 o'clock, I think is appropriate. And on Saturdays, I think, 9 to 4 is a acceptable time window. I think Sunday we can keep it closed. And insofar as the fee, I'm ambivalent either way. And that's really about it.
Well, is that what we're going to have, Chief, the CSO come up here when it's time to shut down?
That's a possibility. The challenge is that it's hard to predict that there's always a CSO available, like at 8:30 or at 9 o'clock. So, and that's why we're looking at perhaps a technical solution to help with that. That perhaps the doors could lock automatically, and then when someone's available, we could come by afterwards. But it's very hard to say on a regular basis, we've got someone that can be here at a particular time, and we certainly would not be in a position to staff it or have someone here while a group's here.
So how are we handling the entrance into the building? This door right here?
Yes, so the front entrance is what the chief is referencing, and that would be whether or not we could program the lock so that if there was meeting groups that were, for instance, coming in at 7 o'clock in the evening, we could program a lock to unlock the door and then relock after 9 p.m. That's not something, that's very recent discussion that we're having, so we don't have a cost estimate on that yet. I think we believe it's under $5,000 to do that, but that's certainly something that we'd have to explore further.
So somebody could do that remotely? In other words,
That would be the intent, yes.
would there be a camera that see who's at the door?
No, it would be timed, so it wouldn't necessarily be someone buzzing the door. It would
Just
just be, if we knew a group was coming in Saturday morning at 9, the staff could actually program that door to unlock at 8:45 Saturday morning, and then to relock at 1500. I'm sorry, 3 p.m. But, for instance, we don't have the cost proposal. I believe the technology is ready to go, and we've asked our staff to develop a proposal on what that would cost. I think if you're looking at Saturday hours, it's probably the best thing to do, rather than to expect that we can always have someone here at a particular time, because I just can't guarantee that, so.
And if I could answer your question as far as the janitorial services, typically, Monday through Friday, they'll come in immediately after we vacate the building. So typically, they'll be over at Public Works, say 4:30, here maybe around 6 or 7. If it's after hours, we'll have to work through something for janitorial services. I don't suspect they'll charge too much, but it'll be additive. And then on weekends, we typically wouldn't have someone here, so there's a little upcharge, but I don't see these dollar amounts being huge, but we need to make sure things are cleaned, obviously.
Okay. Trustee Oppenheim.
So is there someone that could be available actually to buzz people in if you wanted to go that route?
Unless we hire somebody.
Well, at the police, at the telecommunicator center?
It's not set up to be a remote access door. I don't quite know what would be involved in doing that, so it would probably not be our first option.
Certainly technologies are available to do that. The question is, do you have someone at the other end that could be available?
Yeah, we have our emergency police dispatchers that,
Yeah. Probably
are
doing
there
better.
24/7.
Right.
I don't know that it's the best solution,
Right.
and how many people are they buzzing in? We certainly,
Don't want to buzz every
No.
individual.
no, so
Take all their time.
even if we buzzed in one person, the first person, there still needs to be a way of having that door unlock for the rest of the people. If 30 or 40 people coming in, we don't want to put a buzzer that everyone's calling the dispatch center. So I think the timed solution, the programmable time solution, probably provides the board with an option to say if we wanted to go with Saturday. Currently, or the way it was at the Lashin Center, if a group was there till 9, we'd have a CSO go, but I've heard stories of them coming and they're still there, they're still using the room, we're not necessarily chasing them out, and sometimes we've had to come back 2-3 times. It's just not really the most efficient way to do it. We'd rather have the door lock and come by when they're done and just walk and make sure that everyone's left the building.
So, are there any concerns about just leaving the doors open here? I don't know what.
So we, as part of the building remodel, we have set the alarm system up so that we're able to alarm portions of the building without alarming the specific meeting rooms. So we do have adequate security in place within the building.
I would point out, I would have a concern about leaving the door open. It's one thing to have a signed-up registered group, knowing that we'll have it open for a window, knowing that that group's coming, but outside of that, to leave this open, particularly with the stairwell that goes to the basement and everything, we could have problems.
Well, that's fine. But even if you have it for a time period, the building's still open. I mean, there might be a group in the meeting room, and then anyone can walk in and out. So I don't know if that's necessarily the best solution either.
No, it's part of the decision about the meeting room policy. If you want to have a meeting room available when other people aren't in the building, that's kind of the risk that we take as a village. Or you're looking at hiring a staff member to be here anytime the room is
Well,
used.
unless we did go back to that technology and say the first person or the person in charge has to be buzzed in and they have to show their ID or whatever, and then they're responsible to have some other member of the group stand by the door to let people in as they come, and then you're not having the door unlocked for the world.
And how do you tell the second, third, fourth, and fifth person not to press the button to buzz the, I know what the policy would be, I just think from a practical implication, I would be very concerned about putting a buzzer on that door to ring our dispatch center.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's other technologies, they can even just call a number and then that person buzzes them in, just like you do at an apartment building or something. You call a number and they buzz that first person in. So I'm just trying to think of other ideas instead of leaving the place open.
And part of the meeting room policy will involve, scheduling, and we're going to be asking groups to schedule, minimum week in advance, so we have a good sense of groups, number of people in attendance, which will hopefully help mitigate some of those concerns. But at the same token, especially if the board decides that we want to allow meeting times off hours, either weekdays or weekends, logistically, it just makes it more challenging if we have a buzzing, because, dispatch's first priority is not going to be to look
Right.
at the buzzer.
Trustee Cook.
Part of the question on the buzzing in, the technology exists because Amazon can get in your house and your car now. So obviously that technology exists, but what would it cost? And the other thing is, I think I'd like to, my inclination is to make it resident, as opposed to non-resident, and we might even need to define that as, 75% of the membership or something like that should be resident, or some number we want to put on it, to make sure it's a
One thing,
resident group.
one thing I want to add, like St. Mary's of Vernon for the men's club, they pump out a code and they send it to everybody. And then, you can just enter.
And you enter the code.
Why don't, if we do just a keypad?
Keypad.
And you could change the thing all the time.
Yeah.
And if they come up to the door, you just go one, 5-digit number and
Yeah,
boom.
It's possible. It's something we could ask
They call them,
our staff who's doing the examination of the options there. We can ask about that. I don't know exactly what goes into wiping that code and reissuing and how much of an
Yeah.
issue, but we'll certainly pursue that as an option.
I think they do that all the time up there.
I mean, we do the codes
same.
at the Park District, so
Yeah.
we have codes for parents coming into the building, and we change that up. So
Yeah.
I think that's a possibility. I think it's a good, I personally think that the Saturday hours are only on a as-needed basis and not routinely, because I don't know that I like the idea of the Saturday as hours always. I think that those are for special reasons that they have to meet. I'd rather see it Monday through Friday, so, but I do like the idea of a key code. And then, of course, that way the door is locked behind you when you come in, because that's my concern. And I know we've got security set up for the rest of the building. It's just too bad we didn't think of a door on the outside there, which would have been nice to come in, but there was no way to put that there. So then they just have a different door to come in and out.
Well,
That
we
would have
want
been
to
ideal.
provide access to bathrooms though, too.
But they do have to have, right, access to the bathrooms too, so.
Okay, Trustee Markwart.
As Tom, there is a way to do it, and it's a fob. Where I work, yes, it can be called in. There's actually even by phone, it could be monitored to the fact by any of our superiors here, by monitoring it, that you can end up opening it and locking the door. You have, now I can't think of the proper term, on the bar, you push it and automatically locks. So the problem is, I think during hours it's great, but after hours it's tough. If there's other, however it's used, I think it has to have it monitored. There has to be someone that has to be there. Because you walk in this door, yes, you can have alarm systems set any place you want. And at our buildings, we have that, they are, but the problem is, things can happen. So-
Yeah, okay. Trustee Takioka.
I guess my opinion in all this is, do we really want people walking around here, unsupervised? quite honestly. I mean, is there any liability issues with that? I mean, if someone falls, hits their head, I mean, are they coming, you know what I mean? You got to have someone here. And if that costs money, then we have to assess, how much we have to charge a group to come in here, because in this day and age, with people out there, do we really want them in a village hall unsupervised? And I think that's the first question we have to answer. If we do, well, then we can develop a policy. If we don't, then we're going to have to figure out a way to have someone here while a group is here.
And we have requested information from the Park District on forms to indemnify and hold harmless the village that groups would have to sign to participate.
Attorney Hunt?
Yeah, clearly a waiver can be constructed very easily to address that. But the point that I wanted to just remind the board is in terms of a resident versus non-resident policy. Obviously, you can't begin to discriminate across groups based upon whether you believe or don't happen to share their political beliefs or their social views. And while you certainly have to allow groups whose views you may view as distasteful to conduct a public rally, you don't have to let them in your building. But if you're going to let outside groups or non-resident groups in your building, then you have to let them all in your building. And so I would just sort of caution you to think about that when you look at the issue of resident versus non-resident. The other issue, and I think this is going to require probably some more conversation and some more definition, is Trustee Cook talked about a percentage or whatever. Well, you have a number of businesses in the community. If one of those chose to use it, they're obviously a citizen of the community in some sense, but at the same time, many of the employees may not be residents of the community, so you run into some issues there. So you should think about all of those.
Well, that's the exact, my reasoning was exactly what you brought up, and having been in other situations like this, that comes up then. What is a resident team? I mean, we've had that with athletic teams. We've had that with other park programs, and that what becomes a resident program versus a non-resident program. How many kids have to, be from? So it's one of those things. I'd rather think about it now than later because it's bound to come up.
Well, the record must have been kept by the Park District all these years, right? Well, you work for the Park District, so I'm looking at you. I'm like, no. I mean, I'm sure we could determine the preponderance of the group. Tom, do you think it's homeowners associations?
It was,
a
but
large number.
Most of them have already found a new home.
Okay.
At the Sullivan Center. Just a point that I'd like to make is, okay, the American Legion is Vernon Hills Post 1247. Says Vernon Hills Post 1247. Problem is, to the best of my knowledge, there's only 3 residents of Vernon Hills, the post commander, myself, and your neighbor. Everyone else lives in either Buffalo Grove.
Yeah, Todd and Craig.
Craig, yeah.
Yeah, that's the 3.
Wagner.
Yes.
Yes,
Bill.
okay.
Yeah.
But he's sometimes, he's out of town a lot.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is that a lot of these guys are, the adjutant is from Volo. They're all over the place. At one point in time, they lived here, but now.
Yeah.
So now, because it's Vernon Hills post 1247, does that give them a right? Because they probably don't have the 75%. So I guess we're getting into some fine hair splitting, but.
Well, okay, you got enough thoughts on this.
Yes.
Why don't you kick it around with staff and the chief and manager Flushhour and see if you can come up with a solution,
And I just threw the 75% out as a number. It could be 51%. That would make it mostly a resident, whatever we would sell them.
Well, and with the townhome associations, it could be a lot of NOCs too. In some areas, so.
We'll make it American Legion friendly.
Yeah, do that, will you? Okay, okay, nothing else on this one. We're gonna bring this one back, obviously, so.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the omnibus vote agenda. Is there a motion to approve items A through T?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
President Byrne.
Here. Well, wait a second. No, this is just the vote on the omnibus vote agenda. I don't vote yet.
Oh, okay. Is it through S?
S?
No,
T.
Through T.
There's T.
Through T.
Ordinance awarding,
Yeah, we have T.
Yeah, we've got T.
Okay, trustee Takaoka.
Aye.
Hebda.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Marport.
aye.
Cook.
Aye?
Oppenheim.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, is there, under unfinished business, an approval of the village board meeting minutes of April 17th, 2018?
Motion to approve.
Is there a s-
Second.
And there's a second. Questions, comments, corrections, deletions? If not, roll call.
Trustees Takaoka.
Aye.
Hebda.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Marport.
Aye.
Cook.
Aye?
Oppenheim.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any new business to come before the board or other items?
I'd like to bring something up.
Wait, hold on. Trustee Hebs has got her light on.
The
But you-
warnings today, heard those very loud and clear. Is everything in line as we approach tornado season and all that kind of stuff? I mean, I heard in this morning the kids were outside, it was good. so
Right, right.
Everything's good?
Everything's good,
Good.
but I'm glad you bring up a point. I think it's always worth reminding the public that the warning sirens are designed to alert people that are in the community to take shelter. They're really not designed, the noise is not designed to penetrate buildings, and sometimes we get those inquiries. So, yes, they're working well. We'll keep maintaining. We've got another one to replace, but it's operational right
Good,
now.
it was good.
Okay, trustee Oppenheim.
So I'd like some clarification about the message that we got in the transmittal on April 20th regarding the YouTube and Facebook. I don't know whose direction that was, but
Well, it was mine, and it was intended to take off one particular meeting. But the hue and cry came in, so it's back up, I think. Is it back up, Chief? I mean, Mark?
Yes, sir, they were back up the next day.
Yeah.
they were back up the next day. Okay.
Well, they're back up now.
Right. I was able to see them. I wasn't sure if the public was
Because,
able
you
to
know, I
see them,
mean,
but
I think it's important because that's how, when the press doesn't come to our meetings, that's how they find out about our meetings,
absolutely.
correct? Anyway, and plus a lot of residents, I mean, they look at it too, but this was, I had a, you know, a thought to just, you know, kind of go no mas on something, okay? Okay, well,
We were probably the first
Oh,
group in the area to begin videotaping.
oh my God.
And I'd like to
Pardon
stay
me?
out in front of that
Yeah,
because
Yeah,
it helps add to transparency, and that's always a good thing.
yeah, the YouTube.
Absolutely.
YouTube didn't even exist, you know, when we
No,
started.
but I believe we were the first.
1993, I
Yeah,
know.
I believe we were the first in the area, and
Yeah.
I'd like to stay out
In the
front of
old Village Hall.
it. Yes, sir.
It was special.
When you were sitting in the corner.
Because the lights would shine down on everybody's ball spot. It was
Well, that's why I brought it up, and I want to just make sure that that's always available to everyone. Thank you.
So, okay, all right. Trustee Schultz? is that-
I got a note from a constituent who was questioning, and I guess this kind of goes to you, Mike Atkinson, the collection bins that are located in various parking lots. I know we had this discussion about 5, 6
Yes, we
years
have.
ago, but, sorry, I'm old. I'm on Medicare now, so, anyway, can you refresh my memory? They don't need a permit, and it's up to the landlord to throw them out, and most landlords really don't care.
Yeah, that's correct. Or when frankly, our code just doesn't have any regulations pertaining to them at all.
Can we?
From time to
establish-
time, we'll contact the owner, and their response is to ask us, the village, for help in getting rid of them.
Right.
They'd be happy to get rid of them. Can you please help us? And we do. We can, and I've noticed more of them
Yeah.
this year than in past
Yeah, and they're
years.
green and yellow, and the one that the guy sent me was a real Barney purple.
Yeah, I noticed one in Hawthorne Village Commons.
Well, I mean,
It was
do
an
they-
odd colored green that stuck out from Town Line Road.
Are
But
they
what-
never emptied? Is that the?
I guess they're emptied. I don't understand who is sponsoring them or what.
It's
they
various
get-
groups. What we can do is what we've done in the past, which is contact the landlords and let them know, hey, they're there.
Well,
If
can
you
we
want them there.
establish a zoning policy that they have to be permitted?
We could establish any regulation that the board wishes to. We could regulate them in a way that, where they have to be located. Well, it's kind of a, they don't want to be in an inconspicuous location because then you don't know they're there and you
Right.
don't know, hey, I can drop stuff off
No,
here.
I'd prefer it cost you $1,000 a year to put it there.
We could do that. We could come up with some draft regulations that, I mean, with the board's concurrence, it could establish a fee to place them there. It, specifically hold the property owner responsible for whether or not they're there.
Right.
And if they're not in compliance with that, then that would give us the authority we need to follow up to say, hey, you need to get rid of them.
Well, you know, I'm not saying these aren't legitimate charities, but some of these people are, clothing itself has become a useful item for insulation. I think it's kind of a high-end insulation too. Where,
Dave can-
hell, you can buy the darn stuff at Menards,
Well, Dave can speak to it.
Oh, yeah.
And let me touch on that. As part of our Solid Waste Agency of Lake County agreements, which we are a member of that organization,
Yeah.
we do have a location at our Public Works building that we do take the various materials. If they can't put a pair of blue jeans onto someone, they can cut it into pieces, and there's a cleaning reuse. And the village does make a small amount of money for it to be sitting on our site. But we would certainly encourage people to come over to the Public Works Department and use it. It gets used all the time. We have to call them to come pick up, sometimes
So
twice
that
a week.
stuff maybe does go for insulation.
It absolutely does. It
Yeah,
absolutely does. There's
Trustee Hebda, you still have the light on. Trustee Oppenheim?
So are these items that are not good enough to donate to disabled veterans and other true
Yeah, it's a-
nonprofit?
Yeah, the pickups, they always come to our house.
Right, us too. I'm just wondering what kind of items tend to end up in these collection.
Well, it's a combination of items that are very reusable and other stuff that's frankly questionable. You almost wish they would just arrange to have it thrown away. I've seen a combination of both. Because these bins are there, if they're not watched on a daily basis, it's inevitable that something junky is going to show up either, next to the bin or, which is another issue. Sometimes they become overfilled and it just becomes a nuisance at that point. Other bins are watched more closely. It's obvious that they're there on a regular basis, checking how full they are and following up and emptying the bins. But not all of these not-for-profits or companies do as good a job as others. In some instances, it's an issue. And then, and what Trustee Schultz was getting at, and I had noticed that too, was there is a rainbow of color of these bins out there that really, just driving by on Town Line Road, you see them, and the number has also increased quite a bit.
All right, well, why don't you cook something up? Get the model ordinance.
Will do.
Could we, would the board be interested in making sure that it's only for nonprofit organizations, or is that not something?
That's become a nonprofit.
I could, I'll let the board direct me on this, but one thing I'll suggest is that we require a permit. That way, it gives us an opportunity to make sure they're following whatever regulations the board directs us to put in place.
Yeah.
I mean,
And-
Vietnam vets was cruising up and down the street yesterday, because I saw them, and they were going slowly, looking for anything that was laying around. I mean, people come to your door to take it.
Right.
Goodwill's only 4 miles away. Salvation Army is just right across the border. There are places to take articles that,
Well, and I'm sure people do,
yeah.
so.
You wind up with a lot of, like infant car seats. because they expire after 6 years. And plus also Goodwill won't take them because they have a limited life expectancy. So they wind up well, somebody might be able to use it, I'll give it here. No, you're just throwing your garbage here in the street or in a parking lot. And I want to see zero. There's plenty of good, worthwhile charities that'll come to your house on a very regular basis, and there's plenty of options to drop off in this greater Lake County area.
Okay.
I'll let the board discuss that. If, I mean, I could put together regulations that it requires a permit, we regulate their placement.
That would
I
be-
could put together something that prohibits them altogether.
Well, let's just bring it back.
Bring back both then.
You know, yeah. I mean, we got a couple of things to bring back.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Any other new business or items to come before the board? If not, is there a motion to adjourn the board and go into committee of the whole?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second, roll call.
Trustees Hebda?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
Markwart?
Aye.
Cook?
Aye.
Oppenheim?
Aye.
Takaoka?
Aye.
Motion carries. We will be going into closed session for, what is it, litigation?
Litigation and personnel.
Litigation and personnel. We will not come out after closed session to take any other action. Okay, is there a motion to approve the committee of the whole meeting minutes of April 17th, 2018?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second. Comments, questions, deletions, corrections? If not, roll call.
Trustees Schultz?
Aye.
Markwart?
Aye.
Cook?
Aye.
Oppenheim?
Aye.
Takaoka?
Aye.
Hebda?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next is Glow Golf. Are you the guys that did it before? Yes. Well, come on up then. And this is gonna be, is Joe, you taking this, or?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Joe Carey.
So this item appeared before the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on April 25th to request approval of a children's recreational facility within Hawthorne Mall. It's an identical use as was previously within the mall. The previous location was located at the current Dave & Buster's site. This proposal will be adjacent to the lower level of the Macy's. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously 5-0 to recommend approval of the special use. And so if the committee of the whole feels request is appropriate, it is recommended that staff prepare the necessary ordinance approving the special use permit for the Glow Golf in Hawthorne Mall.
And what's your name, please?
My name's John Wright, and I'm John Wright.
And you, yeah, I got that
Yeah.
part. And what company do you own?
Opry Glow Golf LLC is the company we operate.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board on this one? Trustee Cook.
Anything different from the previous?
No, exactly the same, just going into a different location. I mean, we've upgraded the quality of our products a little bit, but everything's exactly the same.
Okay. Trustee Oppenheim.
Where exactly is this going to be located at? I understood from the transmittal was the upper level.
Yes, it is in the upper level. We'll be in the Old Charming Charlie space. It's on the Macy's wing.
Charming
think-
Charlie's?
Uh-huh.
It's on the,
What was it?
So it's not actually in Macy's? It's in
No,
the
no, no,
Macy's
it's just
wing.
on the
So that-
Macy's wing,
That was
yeah.
confusing in the transmittal.
Yeah, we're close to that north entrance, right by the Macy's wing there.
Okay.
And how many square feet is it?
About 8,000 square feet.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to direct staff
Oh,
to prepare the necessary ordinance.
Approving a special use for a children's recreational facility located in Hawthorne Mall.
that's exactly what I said.
Okay, does the first and second agree on it?
Yes.
All right, fine.
The second.
Any further comments or questions? Roll call.
Trustees Markwart?
aye.
Cook?
Aye.
Oppenheim?
Aye.
Takaoka?
Aye.
Hebda?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn and go into closed session?
So made.
Second.
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Good luck.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustees Cook?
Aye.
Oppenheim?
Aye.
Takaoka?
Aye.
Hebda?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
Markwart?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, thank you and good night.
You didn't report, You didn't report on your